Okay, my name is John, and we'll be talking about how to populate data view from data table. So first, I will be explaining the codes. Later, we look at the UI and how it works. So first, we import system data. And so first, what we do is at the UI, we double tap on the form interface, which will give us this public class form one, which is more like a skeleton for us to start coding. So after we've done that, we import system.data. So from there, we create a variable, then table as new data table. So what this variable is, it is the table which would be binded with the data grid view. So first, we will later move on to define the columns of the table. So we have data, we have table dot columns dot add id get type integer, which is the table should have a column, and the name of the column should be id, and the data type of that column should be integer. So we also move to the second one, which is table.column.add first name. So the name of that column should be first name, and each data type should be string, which means it should accept only string input. So we move to the last name column. It also has a data type of string, and that of age has a data type of integer. So we move on to adding our rows, which is table.rows.add 1 xxx xxx. So in this case, we are populating our table with some default values, which means the user won't input, but we are rather hard coding the inputs there. So the aim of this is to populate the data grid view with the data table. So we have table dot rows dot add 1. So 1 represents the ID, and the XXX represents face name, YYY represents the last name, and 21 represents the age. As you know, ID had a data type of integer. So this is an integer, and the first name had the data type of XXX, which is a string. It had the data type of a string, and in this we have XXX in quotes, which indicates that it is a string. Same applies to the YYY, and the 21 is an integer because each other they had the data type of integer. So same applies to the second one with an ID of 2, and the first name being SSDD, and so on. So after that, we bind the table variable we declared earlier with that of the data grid view, so that it can be binded with the data grid view, and the table will be displayed on our data grid view UI. So now let's have a look at how it is. Now, after running this is the output. So we can see that the columns of the table is ID, first name, last name, and age. And the ID has inputs 1, 2, 3, 4, up to 6. And the first name has the XSS, the SSD, and others. And the last name has the YYY, and the age has 21, 20, 33, and so on. So in this case, we've been able to populate a, a data table which is being binded to a data grid view. So that's all we have for this video.